Testing. Alright, I'm gonna give this a try. So right now it's 4:22 a.m. in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm here bringing you a live view of the moon as seen through a telescope. Right now there should be a total lunar eclipse happening. Unfortunately, it's a very, very cloudy night here in Phoenix. Something that never happens. But since there's a lunar eclipse going on right now, the clouds have come out. So this is the best I can get right now. Let's see. So as you can see, it's hard to tell here, but basically, it's a full moon tonight, and normally the moon will be really, really bright. What's going on right now is that the moon has completely entered the shadow of the Earth. So over the past 2 hours, we've seen this shadow slowly creep through the face of the moon. And up until maybe like 5 or 10 minutes ago, you could see with your eyes, not through a telescope, but with your own eyes, you could see a very, very thin crescent of the moon as the shadow started covering the whole ring. Right now, it has mostly covered the entire moon, and with my own eyes, I actually can't see the moon. What you're seeing on screen is seen through a telescope, and it's a longer exposure. It's a 2 second exposure, so you can actually pick out some of the moon. And the moon is like as I said earlier, the moon is usually very bright. So usually when I take photos of the moon, I use a 1 millisecond exposure, for example. Here I'm using 2000 milliseconds, so basically 2 seconds, and still look how faint that moon is. So I'm gonna adjust here the settings a little bit and see what I can get. Let's try 3 seconds. Hey Niall, I see you there. How are you doing? Happy to see you here on my stream. Here trying to see. Oh, actually, selected 3 seconds. Oh yeah, 3 seconds. Got it. What I can do to make this look better? Too bad about the clouds. Right. I can try going for a longer exposure, but I'm not sure it's gonna help much here. Yeah, well, you can see it now. Unfortunately, it's not really going to look much different than what the moon will look like. So right now, it just looks on your screen. It looks like a faint moon. But what is actually happening is, like I said earlier, is in the moon is in the shadow of the Earth, and very similar to how during a sunset, um, the colors, the different wavelengths in sunlight gets filtered out and it gives the sky a reddish hue. Should be seeing the same here. Unfortunately, it's just really cloudy. I can start seeing the moon now a little bit, and yeah, there's some reddish tint to it. It's just really hard to capture on the telescope because there's a huge cloud right in front of the moon right now. Fortunately, hey, it's a nice night out here. It's about like 72 degrees outside Fahrenheit. It's not too bad. Oh yeah, Niall, it's at least where I am located here in Arizona, it is a total lunar eclipse for us. Um, so yeah, I think that people on the East Coast, they would have seen a partial lunar eclipse, if I'm not mistaken. But um, I think the moon probably set for them before this happened. Like right now, I think the moon has set on the East Coast. So even though they would be able to see a partial lunar eclipse if the moon was up in the sky for them, it is below the horizon for them. See, let me see if I can pull out um, a map. See, this is like probably the first ever stream I do like this. So let's see what I can make happen. And let me know if you can hear me. I'm using the same built-in microphone that comes with the laptop. I basically woke up like 20 minutes ago, so I had no time to set this up with a proper microphone. So let's see. See if I can add this as a source. Oh, thank you, Niall. That's not. Let's try capture new source. And we are. Oh, I guess you can see this already. All right. So, what's I looking for? So this is an article from Earth and Sky, earthsky.org, and I think I saw they had a map. All right, here we go. Let's confirm. Okay, yeah, you guys can see this. All right, so this is a map of the track of the eclipse over the world. So right now I'm located right about here. So let me see if I understand. I guess that basically everybody west of here will be able to see it, although at some point you must go into sunlight. So um, the arrow shows where the umbrella eclipse begins and where it ends. Mm. It's eclipse at moonset. Full eclipse. Well, I'm gonna say that if you are on the white side of the map and it is nighttime, you will be able to see the entire eclipse. And I guess at Hawaii, I mean, yeah, it is nighttime there, so looks like they should be able to see it. So I guess here it's not entirely a full lunar eclipse for me, I guess. And then everybody that's like here on the east side is just seeing like a partial or penumbral eclipse. Sorry, I did not do any catching up on the terms. It's been like 3 years since the last time I caught a lunar eclipse, so I haven't really been keeping up with it. So it does look like um, that upper part of the moon is starting to come out again. So as we saw on the map, it's not 100% total eclipse for my location, which means that the entire disk was not 100% obscured by the shadow of the Earth. So um, visually, I can tell that that crescent that used to be visible on the lower right for me earlier is now starting to come back up on the upper part, and it's actually moving quite fast. I can see the brightness coming back quite fast. I wonder how I can capture that effect here on the camera. Okay, so I lowered the exposure a little bit. So you can see here on screen that upper right where it's kind of overexposed. Um, that's where here where I'm sitting as a visual observer, that's where I can see the crescent of the moon coming out, and the rest of the disk is not um, it's not visible for me. It's very faint. So the thing with lunar eclipses is that given that it's basically the moon going through the shadow of the Earth, it's an event that it's it's easier to appreciate what's going on if you actually get to see the entire progression from the full moon out in its entire glory and the shadow slowly creeping through it. That's where you get the entire that's where you get the full impression of what a lunar eclipse is. Because right now if you just come out and look at it, it's just gonna look like a peculiar crescent moon. You might not notice a difference from a normal crescent moon. If you're used to looking at the moon, you will notice that there's actually something off about it today. I actually planned to have this live stream set up like 2 hours ago, and the goal was to capture just that, to get the entire progression from full moon to lunar eclipse to moonset. The problem is it was cloudy. It's just too cloudy at midnight or even at 11 p.m. when I tried to set this up. And when you're going to set up an hours long live stream of the moon, you need to be able to track the moon across the sky. Otherwise, you would need to be fighting the telescope the entire time to make sure that the moon stays in frame because the moon is moving across the sky. So the problem with it being cloudy is that I need to be able to see the stars so that I can align the telescope and make sure it's pointing the right way. And by that I don't mean pointing to the moon. I actually need it to point north. So if if you've heard about Polaris, the North Star, it's called the North Star because effectively, if you can find Polaris, that is north. It's not exactly at, at like perfect north, but it's close enough that it works for navigation. Now, when it comes to telescopes, it helps. What you do is, what it means when I say that Polaris is north is that if you think of the entire sky as a sphere that is rotating around the Earth, if you just kind of map it out that way, um, that north pole of that sphere will be located right by Polaris. And what this means is that the entire sphere is rotating around that point. So if you are able to point your telescope that way, if you align it that way, it means that you can then have the telescope know where it's located and it can point somewhere else and know how to follow the same rotation of the sky and keep that target in frame. So anyway, this was a long ramble to explain why the clouds being out earlier today prevented me from setting up a longer live stream. Anyway, so it's 4:40 p.m. a.m. here in Arizona, and starting to get bright. So what I can see here is the moon is starting to go away again as the sky brightens. But actually, I think I can start to appreciate. I can see the whole disk now, and it's basically like a pink or orange disk at the moment at the top. Bye, Niall. Thank you for joining. Yeah, sorry, I could not look at the comments while I was rambling there. I need to, um, maybe as I get used to this, I'll be able to multitask. I'm gonna play around with the settings a little bit. And let's see. So right now it's a 1 second exposure. I'm gonna go down and see what I can get. Alright, that's getting a little bit closer to what I see. I would say that maybe it's a little bit rotated compared to what I see. Let me see if I can rotate the camera a little bit. Fix that to this scoop. Let's see. This way. Right. If it was dimmer, I would try going for a very long exposure and see if I could get some stars in the background, but it's too bright right now, and maybe even the moon will be too bright if I try that. Let's try 5 seconds to see what happens. Hmm, you can actually start seeing the color if I do that. Hmm, so I'm using this program for the first time. I'm saying that I'm showing me an error here, which I don't recognize. Well, I guess you can at least see the colors of the moon if I go for 5 seconds. I should have tried that earlier. Oh no, Niall here says that they missed the total solar eclipse in the UK. Yeah, if you were in the area and you missed it, I mean, yeah, that sucks. It's I was gonna say total solar eclipses are not rare. I think that we get at least one a year. What is rare though is for a total solar eclipse to happen where you live, right? So, because right, it's a big world, right? I happened. So the last one for me was 2017. There was a total solar eclipse that was seen from most of the U.S. So I think the track basically went all the way from Washington to, I don't remember if it was like either Texas or if it actually went through the East Coast. If we went out through the East Coast. For me, I was living in California, so I just drove up to Oregon. Was it? Yeah. So I went to Oregon. I think it was Salem. I rented an RV, drove the 8 hours to get there, camped out, and was lucky enough to catch totality of the total eclipse at 9 a.m. in the morning. And yeah, it was something I'm never gonna forget. It basically went from being a bright sunny day to it just became night in a matter of like 30 seconds, and it got cold. And if you looked up, all you saw was like this hole in the sky. Like it's kind of like someone punched out the sun and it left a hole in the sky. It was really, yeah, it was amazing to see. First, I'm really glad I had that opportunity. So, yeah, I'm sorry you missed it last time I was over your area. Hopefully, you get to see one again in a few years. Alright, so it's starting to look a little bit overexposed here as it gets brighter, so maybe I should try lowering that exposure a little bit again. There we go, okay. So I should have taken a photo. Let's see how it turned out. It's monochrome. see if I can get rid of that bar. Oh, there we go. If I can take some photos for later while at the same time doing this stream. I mean, after all, the program you see on screen is the same one I would use to take the photos. So let's see. Do snapshot, see how that looks. Do with our exposed. Not too bad. Let's try shortening exposure. Try again. Way better. Yeah, if I had more time, I would probably have my camera out. With snapshots or photos using my Sony camera, but I really just had no time to set this up. You can see that more and more of the moon is starting to become visible from my point of view. But you cannot see on screen, but basically the moon is not too far from just setting behind the house down the street for me, from my point of view. Oh, just went dark. Guessing that's a cloud that went over it because there's nothing for it to go behind. There's no mountain there. Yep, it's a cloud. That's a bummer. It's so rare to have clouds here. It really has been very clear almost every night. And last night, actually, I was able to get some good photos of the moon. And my plan was, since I got some really clear photos of the moon, it was very bright. My plan was today, as this eclipse was happening and the moon got very faint, I was hoping to take some photos that could capture that color of the moon and then take that data from last night and combine it so that I could get um, basically a composite photo where you have the color from the eclipse, but all the detail that can be appreciated in an actual full moon photo, and combine them and see how they turn out. But yeah, the clouds came out. So let's see, it's 4:52 a.m. and it's it's bright. It's not daytime yet, but um, I have this lamp on me and I just don't need it anymore. Can you hear the birds? It's basically gone now. It still hasn't set for me, but it's just behind some big clouds. You can tell now that my camera is a little bit rotated. Let's see if I can fix that. As the moon starts to come back out. Hold on. Let's see if I can fix that. I think that's as good as I'm gonna get it. Let me lower the exposure again because it's too bright right now. Okay, that's 1 second. Let's try half a second. All right, sorry about that. Um, I was saying hi to a neighbor, and I muted for a little bit, and I can see now that the moon is actually behind the house now. So I guess that's the end of the stream for me.